Manga-Waido.
My name is Satoshi Murakami, 49 years old. I've been a staff member of this orphanage since I was in my 20s. I've taken care of many kids. Today, I would like to talk about a kid who made a special impression on me. His name is Kosuke Igawa. Kosuke came to our facility more than 10 years ago. He was still in the upper grades of elementary school at the time. At the time, flooding was frequent. Kosuke lost his mother when a landslide occurred on the mountain behind the house. Kosuke's mother was just under 30 years old at the time. She had no other relatives and left her hometown after graduating from high school to work part-time. One of Kosuke's misfortunes was that he did not know who his father was. His mother never revealed anything about Kosuke's father, not even to his obstetrician or her new friends. Kosuke had no relatives who would take him in, so he was sent to the facility where I work. It was his grief over the loss of his parents that drove him. As Kosuke became accustomed to life at the facility, he began to exhibit more and more of his bad boy characteristics. "Hey, Kosuke! Don't make the younger one cry!"
It's her fault. It's not my fault.
And with that, he would run out. I really had a hard time with Kosuke because he was selfish and was bigger than other children in the same grade.
He hit our kid again. Please, do something about it.
"I'm so sorry! I will scold him severely, so please forgive him!" Our guidance was in vain. Kosuke became naughtier by the year. And yet, Kosuke hated himself.
Just throw me out of here. I'm a kid who was born unwanted.
Kosuke has a scar on his forehead from the disaster. Because of that, other kids would tease him about being a Yakuza kid.
I don't mind being called a Yakuza. I was born and raised in an awful environment anyway.
Kosuke, well, I know it's impossible to tell you not to worry now, but just don't hurt yourself. Even though I tell him things like that, I know myself that those words don't mean anything to him. I wonder if there is any way I can make Kosuke change his mind so he can take better care of himself. I was worrying like that every day. Soon, Christmas was approaching. It was Kosuke's last Christmas as an elementary school student. I don't remember what the reason was, but that day, Kosuke started to act up, and the Christmas party was about to get messed up. "Kosuke, will you stop it?"
Then give me all the sweets you have around there. Then I'll disappear.
When the time came and Santa Claus made his appearance, Kosuke…
Santa Claus. Pfft. Stop trying to fool children. I'm gonna rip off your true nature.
He grabbed Santa Claus, but Santa grabbed Kosuke in his arms and easily shoved him down. "Haha, Kosuke! You picked the wrong person to pick a fight with!"
Hey! Ouch! Ah! Let go of me! I said let go of me!
That scar on your forehead. I see, you got hit by that flood. At this time of year, the self-defense forces come to our facility to comfort us. The Santa Claus is actually a SDF member. What did that SDF Santa think? He then took Kosuke outside and they talked alone for about 10 minutes. Besides Santa, Kosuke seemed to be crying. We watched quietly from afar and dared not to interrupt. And ever since that Christmas, Kosuke became quiet, as if he had changed. His impulsive and violent personality completely disappeared, and he suddenly became a quiet man. He took his studies and athletics seriously and achieved good grades, and was willing to help the staff. I and the other staff members were quite surprised by Kosuke's change at that time. Thank goodness for Santa Claus, huh? I wonder what he told him.
More often than not, adults on the outside give them opportunities to change. Well, for us staff members, that's a little sad though.
Kosuke went on to high school with excellent grades, and during a guidance session, he said,
"I'm gonna join the self-defense forces. I wanna be someone who can protect the weak like me in the past."
Kosuke took the test and passed. He became a member of the self-defense forces, which he had longed for, and left the facility without incident. Even after he left the facility, Kosuke wrote to us from time to time. The letters were full of words of gratitude. A few more years later, Kosuke informed us that his units had been dispatched as part of the support for a typhoon disaster overseas. Kosuke, who lost his parents in the disaster, is doing his best to help others who are going through the same situation.
That's admirable! We need to do our best too!
I agree. Kosuke was becoming a good man, and we were proud of him. And the busy but fulfilling days passed quickly. And one day, after a few more years, listen up everyone! Kosuke just sent us an invitation to a wedding!
He's getting married?
The facility was buzzing with the news. His partner seems to be a woman from the same self-defense force. The staff spent the next few months in an upbeat mood. On the day of the wedding, when we arrived at the wedding venue, the place was filled with the atmosphere of a self-defense force's wedding. The bride and groom on the welcome board were in tanks, and the welcome bear was in camouflage too. The attendees were generally well-built, yet somehow calm. We were happy to be seated in the family section. Kosuke, sitting alongside the bride on the dais, was calm and gentle, and had become a very fine young man.
I can't believe that's Kosuke! He grew up to be a good man.
Thanks to the SDF Santa Claus that day, I wonder how he convinced Kosuke.
Then I noticed a name tag with an unusual name on the seat next to mine. Mark Taylor. What? A foreigner? I wonder who he is. Just before the ceremony started, a foreign man appeared and took a seat. He even waved at Kosuke. I looked over at my colleagues. Apparently, none of them are acquainted with him. They all shook their heads. I convinced myself that he must have been an important part of his life as a self-defense forces member. I am more than happy that Kosuke is now able to build a new relationship with someone like this. The ceremony went smoothly. Since both the bride and groom are self-defense force officers, the sideshow was all about the self-defense forces.
Hey! What looks like an honor guard is marching in. How gorgeous!
Not one member blinked an eye. That's the real deal.
Even Mark Taylor next to him seemed to be enjoying the sideshow and even clapped his hands and laughed at one of them. I wish I could speak English too. I would have talked to him and asked about his relationship with Kosuke. And finally, it was time for the groom to give his final speech.
As many of you here know, I lost my mother in a flood when I was very young.
The room, which was still buzzing, became quiet in an instant at Kosuke's words.
I was taken in by an institution and spent the rest of my life there until I graduated from high school.
The image of Kosuke as a child flashed in my eyes. Smiles, cries, anger, there were so many things.
I grieved over my circumstances, and I was so rough that I caused a lot of trouble for all the staff members. It was at that time Santa Claus showed up at a Christmas party and told me,
"Do your best to repay your mother for risking her life to keep you alive."
That Santa Claus was the very same self-defense official who saved my young life on the day of that disaster.
Kosuke's mother said that she used her own body as a shield to protect her child from the collapsed walls of the house. Me and my colleagues were crying before we knew it. We didn't dare ask him what he talked about to Santa because we thought it was Kosuke's precious memory. On that Christmas party day, Kosuke learned the truth and was truly reborn.
Having never known my father, I spent my time tracing my mother's friendships to find him.
And apparently, they found out that his father was an American soldier killed in Afghanistan.
Mark over there is my uncle. He attended today in place of my father.
Mark, who stood up and bowed to everyone, was holding a picture of the deceased on his chest. That must be Kosuke's father.
I will live gently like my mother and strongly like my father, and protect my beloved family and my land.
Kosuke concluded his speech as a groom with such powerful words of oath. The audience applauded. Mark stood up and clapped, and the entire audience erupted in applause and cheers. I cried for the first time in a while too. And so, Kosuke's wedding ceremony came to a successful end. I caught up with Kosuke as soon as all the attendees had finished seeing him off. Hey, congratulations again, Kosuke. You've grown up.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Stop being so formal. But I didn't know you were half Japanese, Kosuke.
I was quite surprised too when I found out the truth.
Kosuke's mother fell in love with John Taylor, who was studying in Japan at the time, and they had Kosuke. But because of his position, it was difficult for John, who was a student, to identify himself as a father and be with them. Kosuke's mother chose to protect John's position and future. by keeping his father's existence a secret from everyone. John returned to the US and became a military man after many twists and turns.
It seems that during training, whenever possible, my father continued to exchange emails with my mother.
He was always concerned about his family in Japan. A fellow soldier told him that, apparently. Thank goodness, Kosuke wasn't an unwanted child.
But because of the flood, my father lost contact with my mother.
And the timing of the flooding coincided with his deployment to Afghanistan. John went to Afghanistan and lost his life there without even being able to confirm his safety. It was John's brother Mark who taught him all of this. Mark traveled back and forth between Japan and the US on business and was very happy to have his Japanese nephew visit.
Well, I was not good at English, so I had a really hard time at first.
Only English? You're not good at studying in general, right?
You're so sharp even to this day.
Kosuke cheerfully cheered up the room, which was in a somber mood. I'm sure this wife will firmly scold you, even if you become a fool again.
Yes, the number of important people I want to protect has increased again. I will work even harder at my job from now on.
After saluting, Kosuke smiled with the same smile as before. I copied him and saluted with a smile in return.